Thursday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. A little later in the show, Chris Fedor, Cavs beat reporter from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, will be along to talk Cavs coming off a tough loss to the Philadelphia 76ers last night. We begin with some more news of Andrew Berry working to strengthen that defensive line. This from Ian Rappaport just a few minutes ago. Tristan Hill expected to sign with the Browns, another addition to the defensive line. Former second-round pick, also spent some time with the Arizona Cardinals last year, 24 years old. More of a depth piece, but again, you collect a number of guys that you think can play. You let Jim Schwartz sort it out, and you improve that defensive line, which needed some work. Andrew Berry has gotten to work and done that. Let's welcome in Quincy Carrier, host of Untitled, Unfiltered Browns coverage. Quincy, I like what they're doing. You go and get the bodies and sort it out in training camp and have enough guys to run what Jim Schwartz wants.
Yeah, it seems like they're going after a different style of player, too. They just want to kind of rotate out even the bottom-level guys, give everybody a competition, and really just kind of work that out throughout the season. And I'm fine with that. There's going to probably be more young players that they're going to add. I love the emphasis on the defensive line. Is it a ton of money on the defensive line? No, but there seems to be a great focus on the defensive line, and that's what I've been asking for a while here.
I agree with you. And the big name on that defensive line as far as a free agent signing was Dalvin Tomlinson, our run stuffer. He talked to the media with the Browns today, talked about why he chose Cleveland and the opportunity to play alongside Myles Garrett.
Yeah, just with the defensive scheme was one of the biggest things, and just how physical the defensive scheme is attacking. It's based all on attacking, get off the ball pretty much, and being able to use my power more to my advantage as of attacking everybody I line up against and just getting off the ball is just, I feel like it's the best fit for me. And also just the players, like, me and Myles Garrett came in on the same draft class, and I was super excited to play next to him. And, he's one of those freak athletes. He's truly a generational player, so I'm super excited to play with him. I just feel like we're using my power, getting off the ball and stuff like that. We're both gonna demand a lot of attention, and just even if we're on the same side, like you can't double team everybody up front. That's the biggest thing, and the more chemistry we're gonna build with each other through OTAs and training camp and all those things, and just playing off of each other, I feel like the sky's the limit.
And Quincy, the thing that I love is Jim Schwartz has sold him on an attacking style of defense. I am very anxious to see that on the field.
Yeah, it's going to be more of an aggressive style defense. Now, I don't think that means they're going to be sending a ton of blitzes, but as far as what they're going to be asked to do on the line of scrimmage, it's going to be more of an attacking style. Jim Schwartz has a pretty strong and long record of what he likes to do in the NFL, and I believe he'll hold to that. And I think guys know that, right? When guys sign in Cleveland, they're not guessing what their role is going to be. They're not figuring it out. They know, oh, Jim Schwartz is over there. This is what we're going to be doing. It's kind of like back in the day, or at least a couple years ago, when Wade Phillips was the defensive coordinator, right? You sign with Wade Phillips, you know what you're doing. You're running the Wade Phillips defense, right? So that's kind of what we have going on with Schwartz here, where they know, hey, this is what we're going to run. We're going to be attacking on the line of scrimmage. D-tackles, interior guys love those kind of defensive systems because it allows them to thrive and really just do what they want to do every play. So, yeah, it's going to be easy to sell those guys on it. And then when you show them, I told people the best pitch for anybody on the defensive line, send them a picture of Myles Garrett. And they'll be like, yeah, I want to play next to that guy.
I agree with you. Another signing I really liked was it happened yesterday. Juan Thornhill, safety, agreed to a 3-year, $21 million deal, so didn't break the bank. $7 million a year average value for 3 seasons. Thornhill posted a 82.4 PFF coverage grade since 2019, 11th best among safeties during that span. A younger guy, just 27 years old. Take a look at the forced incompletion rates, and this is from Jack Duffin. 20%, third best for safeties. You put that along Emerson with 20%, sixth for safeties. Ward, 19%, seventh for cornerbacks, and you see Delpit's, and then you have a drop-off with Newsome and Johnson. Newsome, of course, playing in the slot. And relative to what it was with John Johnson III. I like the signing a lot. Your thoughts on Juan Thornhill?
I like that signing a ton. I mean, you get a young player, good athlete at the position, but he's pretty disciplined too, so he's going to do what he's asked to do. Not going to be the ball hawk or the big play guy that some people might have wanted or thought Jesse Bates was, but you get a nice medium of a guy who can make some plays, very athletic, still very young, well, still pretty young, 26, 27 years old, and was useful on a team that won 2 Super Bowls in the last 4 years, and just got off of winning a Super Bowl. So even though he's not that old, he still adds some experience to this locker room that they don't have. I mean, how many guys on this team have won a Super Bowl? I think he might be one of a few.
Yeah, and you know, the flip side of it is that's not what Jim Schwartz wants him to do is ball hawk. He's got to be a guy to erase the mistakes, and that's an MO that fits him well. Another signing that this is one that's, you know, a high reward, really low risk. The Browns signed Maurice Hurst to a 1-year deal. That's according to Mary Kay Cabot. Now, Hurst put together a productive career when he's able to be on the field. Problem is, hadn't been on the field. He's played just 41 total snaps the last 2 seasons since signing with the 49ers. He missed all of last year, injured a bicep in training camp, so didn't play at all. Season before, missed all but 2 games. But you and I were talking, this is a guy coming out of Michigan, a big-time player.
Yeah, he was a big-time player coming out of Michigan, and when he's been out there, he's been a pretty productive player. The problem with him has been availability. The Browns are kind of trusting in their staff, and like give the staff their credit when it comes to the health and training staff, the strength and conditioning people, and the analytics they do behind the scenes to keep players healthy. Jadeveon Clowney, I think he played like 2 full seasons or close to full seasons in 2 years here later in his career, which he had never really done before then. So they feel confident given their work on Jadeveon, who was another guy who kept getting nicked and bruised and scratched up through his career and leading to a lot of missed games, and thinking, hey, maybe we could do something similar with Maurice Hurst. If we can, it's going to be a big win for us because he's a really good player when he's out there. And now the pressure is off of a Perion Winfrey, you know, who needs to develop, or even if Jordan Elliott stays or somebody else like that.
Yeah, you add those guys into the mix, and if they show they're taking a step forward, they're here and they're part of the rotation, and if not, you're not counting on them. Let me ask you this, and it's not a trick question. We know kind of what the identity of a Jim Schwartz defense is. Can you tell me what the identity of the Browns defense was last year, or even the year before?
It was miscommunication. That was the identity of the defense last year. They definitely had an identity, but it was not an identity that you wanted.
But now they have the identity. You know they're going to be aggressive up front. You know they're going to fill gaps with linebackers. They're not going to blitz, but they're going to fill gaps, and you know they're going to play aggressively at the line of scrimmage on receivers. There's an identity, and that alone is a step kind of forward. Yeah,
and also one of the things that they could do there is just like have that identity. It helps you in free agency. It helps you attract free agents. It's all of these things kind of come together. Guys who are coming back to the program know what they're going to be expected to do, know what to train. Like it's so much better when you have trust and faith in what you're supposed to be doing.
Quincy Carrier, host of Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We'll hear more from Dalvin Tomlinson, met with the media. Also take a look at some areas the Browns still need to possibly upgrade. Sports4CLE will be right back talking Browns. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Great Lakes Collectors Convention, presented by Greenie Sports Cards, takes over the Fieldhouse in Independence, Ohio, where the passions of sports fans, collectors, and sports talk enthusiasts collide. 50,000 square feet of ball card bliss. Hundreds of display tables. Card Shop Live Theater with interactive appearances from the region's most notable sports media. Great cards, great location, great show. Tickets on sale now at greeniesportscards.com.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier, host of Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage. So Dalvin Tomlinson met with the media, the Browns' newest free agent signee, talking about helping that Browns run defense and also how he fits into Jim Schwartz's attacking style.
As a defensive lineman, I just feel like going into each season, there's always a lot of pressure to stop the run because if you can't stop the run, you'll never get the pass rush. And I just want to come in and help everybody up across the whole front so we could be one unit up front to stop the run as much as possible.
And how good a run defender do you consider yourself, and what makes you good in that role?
I think I'm a great run defender. Also, I just feel like what makes me good in that role would have to be just being disruptive, being physical throughout from the point of attack to the end of the play. You just have to be physical throughout the whole play and every single play. I feel like the biggest thing is even if you're getting pressure on the quarterback. And I feel like I'm a type of player with my power rush, and I open up a lot of opportunities for the other guys playing with me as well. So if I'm not getting a sack, I'm flushing the quarterback out the pocket to go and run straight into another defensive end's arms. So I feel like as long as we play off each other, those with the attacking defense this is, I feel like those numbers are going to continue to grow.
And Quincy, as much as I'm smiling, I think Myles Garrett might be smiling more than anybody at the signing of Dalvin Tomlinson, because that's a guy that will finally have the ability to make him pay when he's getting double and triple teamed.
But you know who's smiling even harder than Myles Garrett? JOK. Like, I'm finally going to be able to, like, just get to my gap. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've finally got somebody who's going to be able to hold it down. That's who's that. Like, the linebackers are the happiest, right? We had one of the most unhealthy linebacker rooms in all of football last year. It's not a mistake that we had some of the worst defensive tackle play. So that's who's probably the most excited, because better defensive tackle plays mean less guards coming up against our linebackers. You know what I mean? Like, that's who's really happy, because Myles, look, he gonna get double teamed no matter what. It could be any, if it's not another Myles Garrett on the other side, like it's just gonna be what it is. Like, you know, Myles' job's gonna be just as tough today as it was tomorrow, as it was last year. He's Myles Garrett. It's just not gonna get easier. You can't even put TJ Watt on the other side and they would care. It's Myles Garrett. But JOK, whew, he's happy. The linebackers are happy to see Dalvin Tomlinson in brown and orange for sure.
So you're saying JOK doesn't think he's going to have a guard as an appendage coming up in the upcoming season. All right, I'll buy that.
Let's worry about it less.
Agbo Okoronkwo is the other defensive end, another signing, and he issued this statement. Well, I'm sure we'll hear from him coming up. Really excited to join the Browns. I'm looking forward to adding to an already talented roster while playing opposite Myles Garrett and to be coached by Jim Schwartz in the system where I've seen multiple players traditionally find success in it. Can't wait to get it going. The goal to bring a Super Bowl to the city of Cleveland. And again, the thing I like about Okoronkwo, he is an ascending player, a young guy that's going to get the opportunity to play more than he has in the past as well.
Definitely. He's another guy who kind of flashed when he got some starting opportunities. You're hoping, again, that the coaching of Jim Schwartz elevates some guys to a better level, and that the position that he's going to put them in, that he knows how to use them in a certain position to use them well. So that's another factor in this. And when I think the philosophy has been, hey, get another big guy like Myles on the other side so we can pressure these tackles. What we're realizing with Myles Garrett is that Myles Garrett is so good at getting pressures that these quarterbacks are going to flush before he even gets there sometimes. And when that happens, you need somebody more athletic on the edge because that person is going to be able to chase that down and hold contain a little bit better than somebody who's able to penetrate just as well as Miles. So with Clowney, I think one of the big problems was that he can't bend and burst with athleticism in that pocket, that small pocket area. He's a great accelerator, but he's not somebody who could burst in short areas. And I think that really affected his ability to clean up from the pressures that Myles Garrett was creating. So maybe if you have guys in there who are a little bit smaller, more athletic, a little bit more agile, when Myles makes these quarterbacks flush away from him, they're able to make that play.
Yeah, I would agree. And again, if you get some defensive tackles that are winning one-on-ones, when they step up, they're going to step up into sacks. So I'm with you. All right, one of the areas that still looks to be in need of an upgrade on the defensive side of the ball is the linebacker position. One guy the Browns were talking to reportedly will not be coming here, Mack Wilson. Former Brown is going to sign a one-year contract with the Patriots, reportedly $2.2 million. So it will not be Mack Wilson with a reunion with the Browns. Now, Browns free agent linebacker Anthony Walker. Browns are still interested in him. Loved by teammates, massive part of the team, especially in the locker room. Ball appears to be in the Browns' court at the moment. Walker is opening to return, according to Noah Weiskopf. And let's take a look at some of the players' tweets in response to this. JOK tweets, need Anthony Walker. AWalk Jr. is his Twitter handle. And Greg Newsome retweets facts. So, again, well-liked in the locker room, productive in the run game. It'll be interesting to see. I'm all for, if he's healthy, I'm all for bringing Anthony Walker back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. AWalk's a great resource in there. I think the price might be the only thing that's the problem with AWalk, but I think hopefully the front office finds a way to get that done, get that veteran leadership back here at middle linebacker because he's the kind of guy that you want if you're hoping to make a run.
Yeah, the other thing is you look at where the run defense went south, you can trace it back to when he got injured. That was the beginning of some serious problems for the run defense a season ago.
Yeah, I mean, him not being there definitely didn't help. Now, there were some issues that were there still before that, but just he has a presence there. He's respected as a leader. I think he's an important piece to have if you're Jim Schwartz as far as the locker room goes, especially to be able to transition from one era to the other because he's a guy who's well known for being respected in the locker room too.
Yep, agree with you wholeheartedly. All right, before we go to break, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
I've been in a few different Brown streams, and the majority of the fans don't have the patience to see rookies develop. Most of them are saying that the Browns don't have time to wait to see if any of the rookies take another step forward because the window for our championship aspirations is closing. But I just saw the Chiefs win a title by having their rookies contribute in a significant way. I wholeheartedly disagree with the majority of the fans saying that we don't have time for rookies to develop because that's how you sustain success. You can't just sign free agents every single season and disregard the draft or disregard the development of your first or second year players. How do you guys feel about that? Is that the right approach to see if your players develop, or do you just want to supplement them with free agents every single season? Thanks.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Quincy, the thing that I think is they did let's see what our young guys at the defensive tackle position can do, and it didn't work out a season ago. I think that's the reason the fans are clamoring for free agents. Yes, you do have to draft and develop players, but they have to step up when you give them the opportunity.
Well, there's a mix, too. Yes, players have to have the opportunity, but they also have to be at a certain level in order to justify that opportunity, right? You can't just put somebody out there for the sake of being out there. But when it comes to the case of some of the young guys like David Bell was somebody pictured in there, yeah, he deserves an opportunity to compete, right? And I think that's what the caller is basically saying is that these young guys do deserve the opportunity to compete. And if they are playing at that level to where they compete, hey, they'll get their chance. I don't think this is a situation where people just want to replace everybody with free agents. But I also think, the caller is right when he says, hey, we got to be a little bit more patient. But I think the answer to that question, because he compared it to the Chiefs, all depends on how good do you think Deshaun Watson is, right? That's a big part of this equation. Do you think Deshaun Watson is going to be Pat Mahomes level, or do you think he's going to be a tier below that or a tier below Patrick Mahomes? Like, where do you think he is on the pantheon of this? If you think he's Pat Mahomes level, he'll figure it out. If you don't think he's Pat Mahomes level, you need to have some backups in place. And if you really don't think he's Pat Mahomes level, then you need to have some pieces around it, right? It's all about what your perception and belief level is in Deshaun Watson's ability on the football field. And that's going to dictate how you feel about what they need to put around him. Me personally, I feel like they already have enough. They can add a couple pieces, maybe in the draft, maybe in free agency, some supplementary pieces there, like a McCole Hardman or something like that. But I don't think that they need to go out their way to overhaul this. But who knows? Right when I say that, they probably trade for D-Hop or something like that, knowing my luck.
I'm with you. My belief is you give Deshaun Watson as many weapons as you can. And if you give him another weapon, I think this offense can take a step up. And that's all you're looking for. The offense is going to be good. If you give him another weapon at wide receiver, I think it can be elite. That's kind of where I'm at with it. And I agree with you. I think he is probably a tier below Patrick Mahomes, but that's still pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the hope is, like, we know right now he's probably a tier below Patrick Mahomes when we've seen him at his best in the NFL. The question is, can he get better? Right? That's the big question with Deshaun Watson. Can he get better? If he plays the level he's played at for his whole career, that contract will be a decent deal. If he plays better, that contract will be a fantastic deal, right? It's all about that question. Can he play better than he has previously before? Have we seen the best of Deshaun Watson, or is the best of Deshaun Watson yet to be seen? That's going to determine our fate for the next 3 years.
Agree with you. I've said the same thing. Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll take a look at some free agents on the offensive side of the ball. Do the Browns look to add a weapon to the arsenal for Deshaun Watson? Sports4CLE, I'll be right back. Stay with us.
The Great Lakes Collectors Convention, presented by Greeny Sports Cards, takes over the Fieldhouse in Independence, Ohio, where the passions of sports fans, collectors, and sports talk enthusiasts collide. 50,000 square feet of ball card bliss. Hundreds of display tables. Card Shop Live Theater with interactive appearances from the region's most notable sports media. Great cards, great location, great show. Tickets on sale now at greenysportscards.com.
We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier, host of Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage. This from Aaron Wilson, free agent, wide receiver. Paris Campbell is headed to the Giants. A 1 year, $3 million base, could be as much as 6.7 with incentives. So a free agent wide receiver off the table. Now, Juan Thornhill, who we told you the Browns signed as a free agent, he is already out actively recruiting. You see the one and only is Juan Thornhill, and he is tweeting McCole Hardman. Remember, we came in together 2019. Come on over, and you see Hardman responds with a pair of eyes. So, Quincy, whatever it takes, you get a former teammate who's going to actively recruit. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure behind the scenes, too, Watson's doing his fair share of reaching out to guys and to encourage them to sign here, right? The Browns are trying to build something that's going to be close to a championship contender, if not a championship contender. It's got to be a lot of excitement about that, and there's got to be a lot of recruiting Mecole Hardman, he's somebody who can help you.
Yeah, without question. That's that fast twitch speed guy. Again, coming off an injury, so you hope he's okay.
Also good at punt and kick returns. Remember that.
Yeah, a lot of speed and the big playability. All right, so word's coming out, and the Browns have been tied to Jerry Jeudy from a number of places. So interested in trading for Jerry Jeudy. Benjamin Albright notes that price tag too high for the Browns right now. Would have to come down, but they're monitoring the situation as they are, as you would expect Andrew Berry to be, with all wide receivers on the trade market. Jeudy is a guy it's intriguing. It'll be interesting to see are the Broncos motivated to trade him, and if so, how high is the price tag? Right now, they're not going to say this early in the game, yeah, we want a second-round pick for Jerry Jeudy. They're saying they want a first-round pick. We'll see where that lands. Any interest in Jeudy if he becomes available?
Oh, yeah, there's always interest in somebody that fast, that athletic, at wide receiver. The price is going to be important. I believe Judy's still on his rookie deal, so you're not going to be inheriting a crazy contract, and better yet, Judy's not going to have the leverage to force you into a heavier contract once you trade for him. So you're just trading for a player as is. It'll be interesting to see what they do there. I do look at Sean Payton's history, and I don't remember him having a lot of high-priced, fast wide receivers. Usually the guys that he pays, and he barely pays receivers. Remember, that was like a big thing when they signed Jimmy Graham? Jimmy Graham was like the first
tight end. Yeah, the big
receiver that they paid over $10 million to in like 10 years over there in New Orleans. So not somebody who's very inclined to spend a lot of money at the position. So probably going to be very motivated to move off of it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. All right, before we go to break, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, this is Dan in Maryland, calling from Ravens Country. Love the show. Keep up the good work. Yeah, I just want to say, a lot of people seem real concerned about our need to add another receiver, whether it's in the draft, free agency, trade. I'm more concerned about a second tight end. I like Njoku a lot. Harrison Bryant, I think, is a nice third tight end, but he's a decent receiver. He's not a dynamic enough receiver to offset his deficiencies as a blocker. And I personally feel that TE2 is more important than a wide receiver 3, especially since I'm a big fan of David Bell, and I think he's going to make a huge jump this year. Anyhow, like I said, keep up the good work. Go Browns.
Appreciate all of the voicemails. Quincy, I know you have an opinion of David Bell. Let's start there, and then we'll kind of go to the tight end 2 thing.
Yeah, I like David Bell. I just got to see more out of him. But the tight end 2 thing's interesting because that's been one of those places where the Browns have been rumored to be interested in a guy like Hayden Hurst or interested in a Dylan Palmer, who's interesting, right? He's a very fast tight end. I think he ran like a 4.4. He's like 6'8". Talk about an end zone target, right? That's somebody who could be a huge end zone target. And I think the caller is on to something here because if you look at where Deshaun Watson's touchdowns and who he's thrown those touchdowns to throughout his career, it's a lot of tight ends. He's thrown a lot of touchdowns to tight ends. He loves big, tall targets. He loves 50-50 guys in the red zone. He loves giving his guys a chance to get big in the red zone and just box guys out. So that is a position that I do think that they need to put some emphasis on. And, maybe you get somebody like a Donald Palmer, or maybe if they brought in Farrell Brown, who used to play with him, right? Like these are guys who can be athletic, box up. Maybe they bring in another basketball player like last year. But Deshaun likes those big targets in the red zone, and he's been real successful with those big targets.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is I'm not discounting it. I think they're going to play more 3 wides. So you really want, in addition to David Bell, you want 4 guys that you feel can threaten the defense. That's the reason I would like them to get a veteran wide receiver. Just your thoughts on that.
I think it's important that you have 2 guys that really threaten the defense, but like after that, nobody's going to change their coverages based on what the 3rd or 4th wide receiver is really doing there, right? And I'm talking about in terms of who's going to be targeted, so not like in slot in X and Y terms. So X and Z terms, my bad. But that's not going to change anything unless you have two guys who can get open and the other guys can find spots in the zone or find soft spots in coverages or get weaker coverage and just win one-on-one there. So I don't think you need to overload the position. If you have Amari Cooper out there and Donovan Peoples-Jones out there, that might be enough. If you add a McCole Perriman or somebody like that, I think that'd be enough to pressure defenses and get some of those guys open. And again, this is good for getting down the field. That 4 wide, 5 wide stuff is really good for getting down the field and scoring in big chunk plays. But the Browns' biggest problem offensively, in my opinion, last year was their inability to take advantage of scoring opportunities from 20 to 10 yards out. That was a big issue for this team. And that's not going to be solved by a bunch of 5 wide packages. You're going to run some 2 tight end. You're going to run some 11 and 12 and out there. So, that's what I think would be helpful. I think that's where, when you see the Browns do play action, they'll probably do it more in that area to free guys up and to make life easier. But that's the main focus I have there, because I look at the Browns, I look at it on tape, and I think if they have more success in that 10 to 20 yard area throughout the last 6 games, how we talk about Deshaun Watson right now and how we're talking about the season might be completely different, because I think they could have won 2 or 3 more games just on the strength of that.
I cannot argue that they do need a red zone target and a tight end too, to the caller's point. It might make a lot of sense if it's the right guy. Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout, other side of the break. We'll look at the Browns' cap space as it stands now. We'll also take a look at some of the remaining free agents that are out there. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier, host of Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave Price from Cleveland. We went out and we got, a guy from Houston, Oval, I can't say his last name. Then we got the guy from Minnesota, nice, solid defensive tackle. Then we go out and get Thornhill. And now everyone's like, the salary cap. Man, we got 3 hell of good players, and we're still under the salary cap. I don't understand the people. Thank you, Dave, for taking my call. God bless you. God love you, and I'm out.
Appreciate all of the voicemails. I have trouble with Okoronkwo as well. But to his point, Quincy, the moves again, and we talked about this at the top of the show, the moves Andrew Berry has made make sense in free agency. Doesn't mean it's going to work, but at least you see what he's trying to do and get done.
Yeah, there's a clear process here at play whenever he does the draft and whenever he does free agency. Things are done in a very systematic way here in Cleveland, and they're done with a reason. It's funny. We envy other teams that do this. We start doing it. We don't envy it anymore. But, it is one of those things where he's operating with a plan. He has the time to execute it. And this is how we operate. This is Cleveland Browns football. This is what they do. And I think we just got to get used to it.
All right, let's take a look at the current cap situation. This is from Jack Duffin. You follow him on Twitter. Orange and Brown Report always does a great job. Doesn't have the numbers from Maurice Hurst or Hill, the guy the Browns signed today. Those are not expected to be huge cap hits. Already are still $11.2 million, and there's a number of other things that they can do in terms of restructuring. So bottom line is, again, the cap is not an issue yet. Eventually, it probably will become one down the road a few years. But again, the front office is doing a good job of keeping the cap front and center when they're trying to add to this roster.
Yeah, like Andrew Berry, and then again, they've been doing a good job being forward thinking about this. They know that they have a quarterback that they're going to have to pay. I am of the opinion that they feel like, hey, this season and next season are the two big opportunities, the two big swings we're going to take at being a Super Bowl champion. If we do it, great. If we don't, okay, we'll reload once we get our first-round picks back from the Deshaun deal and then start to add new talent, get younger at some positions, maybe get rid of some of the old players that used to be here, used to be stars here, and then maybe just hang on to Myles Garrett and Deshaun while we build around him. This is what teams do around their franchise quarterbacks constantly. We've seen this with Aaron Rodgers. We've seen this with Ben Roethlisberger, where the first team that he got to the Super Bowl with couldn't be more different from the second team that he got to the Super Bowl with, and couldn't be more different than the team that he ended his career with. So teams continue to keep these windows open. It's not going to be open for like 10 years, but you're going to have 2 years here, rebuild for a couple, 2 years there. And I think that's what they're looking at.
I agree with you. All right, along those lines, we showed you there's 11 million, 10 million still on the cap they can restructure. Let's take a look at some of the free agents that are still out there. Let's start with the tight ends. So you got Donald Parham, who we talked about, Foster Moreau, another guy who's been a tight end too, to Darren Waller, Irv Smith, O.J. Howard. I like Parham. I don't mind Foster Moreau when given the opportunity. He's played well. But Parham's a guy that is intriguing, and the Browns have been tied to him.
Yeah, Donald Parham is very intriguing, right? O.J. Howard's another one where it's like, he was a first-round pick at tight end. There's something that we could squeeze out of there, but like everybody's thought that for like the last 5 years, and like nothing's worked out with him. But Parham is interesting because he used to be in the XFL in 2020, a very raw prospect at tight end when he came into the league, had some success there in the red zone. And then I think that's where his success can be, is that tight end too. And then he reminds me a lot of Darren Fells, who Deshaun had in Houston and was very successful with in Houston. So I think that's probably somewhere where they're looking. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Parham is where they want to go with him, because he might be the right deal at the right time.
Yeah, and again, it's not going to break the bank. It's not going to be a, $2-3 million is probably what you're looking at with Parham. Let's look at the available defensive tackles. And again, the Browns have added some. I wouldn't be surprised if they added another. Matt Ioannidis is a guy that they were tied to before. I like A'Shawn Robinson, Poona Ford, Jonathan Hankins. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, those are all good guys that can come in and start for you. This is where Jim Schwartz's evaluation of the tape is going to be important. Does he see guys who can't play in the NFL when he watches his tape? Does he see guys who cannot help this team win next year when he watches the tape? Or does he see guys who just weren't in the right spots to make plays? If he sees the latter, he's probably not going to go after any of those guys. If it is the former, then they're going to be heavy in that market, right? But if he looks at Perion Winfrey and thinks, oh, yeah, I could put him in a better position to be successful. If he looks at Jordan Elliott and assumes, oh, yeah, I could put him in the right position to be successful, then I think he'll just stick with the younger guys in the room there. But that's always a balance between the GM and the coordinator and the coaching staff.
Yeah, and Andrew Berry said they always include that. And to your point, are you asking guys to do things that aren't their strengths? Jim Schwartz has said, we got to figure out what guys do well and ask them to do that. And that's, I guess by definition, that's good coaching.
Yeah, that's good coaching, and that's just good people management, right? Just you want to ask people to do what they can do well and find people whose what they do well matches up with others people's what they do well, and then boom, you got a team there, right? So that's just good coaching, good management, and that's what Jim Schwartz is here to bring. Hopefully that is the case. And again, I think a lot of his evaluation of this room is going to be based on some of the tape and also just talking to the guys. Who seems coachable? Who doesn't, right? Talking to Andrew Berry, talking to Kevin, talking to some of the defensive coaches that might be retained and saying, hey, how do you think this kid can be helped? Do you think he's going to be somebody who's going to be open to a different technique? Do you think he's going to be open to being moved here? Is he somebody who you find is very coachable? Do you think this was more of a missed opportunity on us versus them, or versus them not capitalizing on an opportunity, right? There's a lot riding on this season. They're not going to leave up most of the chance, and they're going to take chances on guys they feel like are sure bets.
All right, before I let you go, let's take a look at free agent wide receivers that are still out there. Adam Thielen is an interesting guy. Chark, Campbell signed with the Giants. We mentioned that earlier. We've talked about Hardman, Slayton. Do you think they should go after Adam Thielen? That's a guy he's not a 50-50 ball guy, but he seems to be a guy that finds a way to score touchdowns. And he's got that tie to Kevin Stefanski when he was with the Vikings.
Yeah, I don't think Adam Thielen's the direction they should go at, because he's not somebody who adds a new element to this offense, and he's not somebody who's going to overpower teams. And where you can play him is not very different than where you already have a logjam between DPJ and Amari Cooper. So you would just be adding to a logjam at that point with him, and he would be a fine player. I just don't think there's space for him to be that player here, because Donovan Peoples-Jones really does most of the stuff that he does.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Quincy Carrier, Untitled, Unfiltered Browns coverage. Thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much, Quincy.
No problem. Thank you for having me on.
All right, Quincy Carrier, make sure you check out Untitled, Unfiltered Browns coverage. Always really good stuff. We're going to step aside, turn our attention to the Cavs. Chris Fedor, Cavs beat reporter, plain dealer, cleveland.com. Straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to Go Forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We turn our attention to the Cavaliers, currently in 4th spot in the Eastern Conference behind the Bucks, Celtics, and 76ers. Last night, played Philadelphia at home. We're up 13 in the third quarter, ended up losing by 9. J.B. Bickerstaff talked about what happened in that fourth quarter, as well as kind of a controversial call that was against Joel Embiid. Would have fouled him out. They reversed the offensive foul call and allowed him to play. Here is J.B. Bickerstaff.
I thought we did a good job, but we didn't close possessions. Gave up 5 offensive rebounds in the fourth quarter. It seemed like, to the eye, they made you pay every single time. When you're playing a team, that's made up the way they are, you do a great job and get a stop. You can't give them an extra look at it. I thought that happened too often.
What did you see from Evan tonight, just the way that he was able to battle against him?
He drew a hell of a charge to get him beat his 6th foul. He did a hell of a job. It's clear as day that's a charge. There's no doubt about it. The call was made on the floor. He stands in between him and the basket. They lower the shoulder. I thought Evan competed, laid it all out on the line. Guys ought to be rewarded for that. You know what I mean? Like, if you're willing to stick your nose in there, sacrifice your body, you ought to be rewarded for the correct play.
Let's welcome in Chris Fedor, Cavs beat reporter, plain dealer, cleveland.com. Cavs, Chris, I can't argue with anything that JB just said. Those are the kind of things that happen in playoff games and games against, really intense teams that are close.
Yeah, Dave, and I think it's something that the Cavs are going to learn from and they're going to benefit from. And we've talked about it throughout the course of the year. This is a year of firsts for a lot of these guys. It's a year of firsts for JB Bickerstaff. Like, he's never been a head coach of this kind of team with these kinds of expectations. And for Darius Garland, for Evan Mobley, for Isaac Okoro, and a lot of these younger guys, they're going through these kinds of moments, March games. They have obviously stakes that are higher than what they're used to. A really, really good opponent that has been surging up the standings. A team that could finish second in the Eastern Conference based on the way that they have been playing lately and based on the way that Boston has kind of fallen back lately. So these are the kinds of moments that are going to be really, really important for the Cavs moving forward. And I don't think you can only get caught up in just what the win-loss result is and what the final score shows. The Cavs did a lot of really good things last night against the 76ers, playing the second game of a back-to-back following 9 days away from Cleveland. And it shows a lot of growth and a lot of maturity. And even though they didn't come up with enough plays down the stretch against Philadelphia, I thought overall, given all the circumstances surrounding that game, including playing without Jared Allen, their all-star caliber center, the guy who probably would have taken that matchup against Joel Embiid a little bit better than somebody like Evan Mobley, I thought the Cavs played well and handled themselves and showed why they're a legitimate contender in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, it's hard to argue it, and that's kind of the point to be made is Joel Embiid is an MVP candidate, probably the winner of it for a reason. And playing without Jared Allen, that's going to be tough. And I know you tweeted out earlier that Allen's already listed as out for tomorrow's game against the Wizards. So what do you think JB Bickerstaff wants to see in these final 10 games of the regular season?
I asked him that the other day, actually, before the game against the Charlotte Hornets, because he's been talking throughout the course of this season, Dave, about trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, trying to figure out lineup combinations, trying to figure out who the best 8 are going to be for him going into a playoff series. And I think he has a general idea of who the top 7 are in his rotation. And the 8th spot is going to be a wild card. The 9th spot's going to be a wild card. It's going to be based on matchups. It's going to be based on game flow. It's going to be based on, does he need offense or does he need defense? And I think that's just the way that he's going to handle it in a playoff series, whether it's against New York, whether it's against Brooklyn, whether it's against Miami. That 8th, 9th guy is going to change, maybe even on a nightly basis. So I think the thing that he wants to look at down the stretch is, how are the Cavs handling these late game situations, these pressure-packed moments? Are they executing properly at both ends of the floor? Do they have sets that they can go to in end-of-game situations where Donovan and Darius can play off of each other, where the Cavs know they can go get a bucket? Because that's the thing that Boston and Milwaukee and Philadelphia and even the Miami Heat have instead of the Cavs, right? In late-game situations, Miami knows exactly what set they're going to run offensively. They know exactly where they're going to go with the ball because they've got experience doing that. So I think down the stretch here, the Cavs are going to continue to dabble in these late game situations. Sometimes it's going to be Darius, sometimes it's going to be Donovan, but they're trying to figure out what works so that they're ready to go in a playoff series.
I know you wrote an article about Cedi Osman and just him being kind of the wild card of a team in need of bench production. Take us through that and kind of your thoughts on that. And LeVert has played well, so that there are the pieces there. Can they all come out in a series, I guess, is the question.
I don't know, because we certainly haven't seen it throughout the course of the season, Dave. Right? If you're just going based on what we've seen throughout the course of the regular season, if you're just going based on numbers and ignoring everything else, you would say that the Cavs have one of the worst benches in the entire NBA. It's the 3rd lowest scoring bench in the league. And in that same mix as Miami and Portland, those kinds of teams, that's not the company that you want to keep. And I think the truth of the matter is, based on the way that JB Bickerstaff has handled his bench, based on the options that he has available to him in that second unit, that production is going to continue to fluctuate. because Jetty Osman's an erratic player by nature, right? Karis LeVert is an erratic player by nature. Lamar Stevens, Danny Green, Dean Wade. It's hard to count on those guys, and it's hard to say, I know exactly what they're going to give me on a nightly basis at both ends of the floor. In saying all of that, this has been hard on somebody like Jetty Osman. It's been hard on somebody like Dean Wade. When you're a bench player, you're looking for consistency and stability, the most consistency and stability that you can get. And these guys don't get it from JB Bickerstaff. And I don't think they're going to get it from JB, because a lot of his decisions are either or decisions. Do I need offense? Do I need defense? Right? Do I need size? Do I need speed and quickness? And there just aren't enough two-way options for the Cavs at the back end of this bench where JB can go to somebody and say, well, if I'm getting offense, I'm not giving up enough defense, or I'm getting defense and I'm not giving up enough offense. But like I said, for somebody like Jetty Osman and Dean Wade and some of these other guys, it's been hard because they don't know where their shots are going to come from. They don't know when they're going to play. They don't know going into a game if they are going to play. And that lack of consistency and that lack of stability, I think, has played into a fact that there's been a lack of productivity from a lot of these guys. Beyond Karis and Rubio. Karis and Rubio are the two off the bench where JB trusts them. He knows how many minutes he's going to give them. It's not going to be situational. It's not going to be circumstantial. But beyond those guys, it's very, very, very difficult to figure out what the Cavs are going to get from them on a nightly basis. And it's hard for them to know exactly what they're going to get on a nightly basis.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, it's almost like you have different skill sets from each of these guys. The good news is you've got guys with a bunch of different skill sets. The bad news is you've kind of got to mix and match those skill sets to meet what you need in any given night.
And if you're somebody like Dean Wade and Jetty Osman and you get an opportunity in the first half and you know I'm only getting one opportunity in the first half to show why this is the matchup for me or why I should be out there for the second half or whatever the case may be, you start doing a little bit too much. You start pressing a little bit too much. Those shots aren't taken with the same amount of freedom, right? You're looking over your shoulder to see, am I going to get yanked out of the game because I make a mistake or because I miss a shot or whatever the case may be. So I just think the situation that these guys are in, albeit I don't know what other way JB could go about it because of the options that he has to choose from. But having to play in that kind of environment with that level of pressure and stress, it really doesn't do anything but take away a guy's confidence, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And you know what? It's going to get even ratcheted up come playoffs because they're going to need those guys without question. Chris Fedor and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out, other side of the break. We'll hear JB Bickerstaff on how Karis LeVert is playing. We'll also take a look, get Chris's thoughts on what would be a successful season when you look at the Cavs this year. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
The Great Lakes Collectors Convention, presented by Greeny Sports Cards, takes over the Fieldhouse in Independence, Ohio, where the passions of sports fans, collectors, and sports talk enthusiasts collide. 50,000 square feet of ball card bliss. Hundreds of display tables. Card Shop Live Theater with interactive appearances from the region's most notable sports media. Great cards, great location, great show. Tickets on sale now at greenysportscards.com.
We continue talking Cavs with Chris Fedor, Cavs beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. So Karis LeVert, 20 points in consecutive games for the fourth time this season. JB Bickerstaff talked about Karis LeVert after last night's game.
I mean, I thought he was great. I think we're seeing what Karis is capable of. His ability to create, not only for himself, but to create for his teammates. And it feels like he's catching a rhythm, with his shot making and when to pick his spots. So I think he's doing a great job for us on both ends. He took a lot of pressure off the way that they wanted to defend Donovan and Darius. And he was able to make them pay by getting to the paint, sharing the ball, creating for himself. But I also think he did a great job defensively. He's been running long stretches and has had a huge impact for us. So again, I think he's trending in the right direction and ramping it up.
And Chris, a guy like Karras kind of adjusting to coming off the bench, adjusting to playing next to either Mitchell or Donovan, or Darius rather. That's a lot to be asking and adjusting your game to. So hopefully he's hitting that stride at the right time.
Dave, I can't think of anybody else on this team that has been asked to sacrifice more than Karras, with the exception of maybe Ricky Rubio, who is a starting caliber point guard that's willing to come off the bench in this kind of environment because that's what's best for this team. But Karras has been asked to be a starter, a bench player. He's been asked to play the 2, the 3, sometimes the 4 even in certain lineups. Ball in his hands, ball not in his hands, defend the opponent's best player. Like, there are a lot of things that Karras does on a nightly basis that sometimes don't always get seen. And I think the situation on him has been difficult. And I think we have to recognize that, because what Karras is doing for this team and the sacrifice that he has made, like how he's being used offensively some nights, isn't what's best for Karras. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It doesn't put him in the best situation for him individually to thrive. But that's what the Cavs need. And he's willing to do it, and he's willing to try, and he's willing to be a floor spacer, and he's willing to sacrifice parts of his game so that Darius and Donovan can run the offense, or because Ricky Rubio's running the offense in the second unit instead of Karras. So given all of that he's had to deal with throughout the course of this year, and I know his production has been up and down, and I know sometimes people get frustrated when he hijacks offensive possessions and things along those lines, I think he has been an asset to the Cavs, both on and off the court. And I think he can be an asset for the Cavs on the court, especially in a 7-game series in the playoffs. He's been there before. He understands how to get himself ready for those kinds of moments. And I don't think he's going to be played off the court because he's not just a one-way player. He has shown defensively a lot more this year than I think a lot of people thought he was capable of. And I think that has helped him make up for some erratic offensive nights.
So the Cavs are 2.5 games ahead of the Knicks for the 4th spot. Fourth spot means you get home court in the first round of the playoffs. How do you judge if this has been a successful season for the Cavs, do you think?
I think for them, it kind of depends on who they see in the first round and who they would potentially see in the second round. But for me, coming into this year, Dave, I said all along that the Cavs aren't on the same level as Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Boston, and I said at the time Brooklyn, because they had Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and that team was actually rolling at the time that they decided to dismantle it at the trade deadline for a variety of reasons. And I still don't think, based on what we've seen from the Cavs, that they are on that top tier of the Eastern Conference. So to me, it's not fair to expect them to win a 7-game series against one of those teams, because those teams are further along. They've accomplished more than the Cavs. They've been better than the Cavs throughout the course of this regular season. And they've been through things, especially in the postseason, that the Cavs haven't been through. So for me, if they get just to the first round and they get to experience a 7-game series, even if they lose that 7-game series, it's a win, because that's what Darius needs. That's what Evan Mobley needs. That's what this group as a whole, the core 4 specifically with Darius, Donovan, Evan, and Jarrett, that's what they need. Because oftentimes there are steps that organizations have to take. And when you go from a rebuilding team to the playoffs, that's a big, big step, right? It's very, very rare for a team to go from rebuilding team to all of a sudden they're championship contenders. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And obviously their timeline got sped up by the trade for Donovan Mitchell, but that wasn't a trade just for this year. That was a trade for this year, next year, and the year after. And to have all of these guys under contract for at least 3 more years around the same age that they are, there's some belief that even if the Cavs don't get out of the first round this year, they'll come back next year. They'll learn from that experience. They'll have that experience that they didn't have going into this year, and they'll organically grow from it. That's often what we see in the NBA.
I can't disagree with you, but I do think when you talk about Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, and Allen, they have a puncher's chance against anybody they're not going to be favorites, but if they play a certain way up to their capability, they can play with anybody in the league.
Look, like if they get a first-round matchup against Brooklyn, I think it's fair to expect them to win that matchup. And if they don't win that based on what they've shown throughout the course of the regular season, how they've played throughout the regular season, and what they have in terms of high-level talent compared to Brooklyn, then I think you can say that series itself would be a disappointing outcome and a disappointing result for the Cavs. But like if they lose home court advantage, if the Knicks pass them, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if the Knicks pass them and the Knicks get the 4th seed and the Cavs drop down to 5th, and they don't have home court advantage in round 1 against a team that has playoff experience, right? Jalen Brunson has been there. He knows what it's like. He knows how to thrive in that kind of environment. Same thing with Julius Randle and the way that the Knicks have played in the second half of the season. Like, I don't think you look at that and say, well, I can't believe the Cavs lost in the first round to the Knicks. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think it's obviously based on what the matchup's going to be in round 1, who has home court advantage, and all that kind of stuff. But I'm with you. Like, if they play against the Knicks, they have a fighting chance. If they play against the Nets, they should win that series. If they play against the Miami Heat, it would be a tough battle, and Miami's battle tested in a way that the Cavs aren't, but I think the Cavs could win that series. It's when you talk about the next series that they would have to face Milwaukee, Boston, Philadelphia. That's just a different level that I don't think the Cavs are at yet.
Chris Fedor, Cavs beat reporter, plain dealer, cleveland.com. As always, great stuff. Thanks so much for the time and insight. Appreciate it, Chris.
You got it, Dave. Anytime, man.
All right, Chris Fedor, check him out. Great Cavs coverage, cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.